Welcome to Cut the COVID Crap, part 62. Vaccine shedding in breast milk. Yes or no? Okay, you may have seen a study in the last couple of days coming through the news that there's vaccine shedding in breast milk. That's a study published in the JAMA, JAMA. What is it? The Journal of American Medical Association, something like that. Anyway, I may have it wrong, but it's a well-known journal. That study says, as usual, the link below. It's titled "Detection of Messenger RNA COVID-19 Vaccines in Human Breast Milk." I'll read a little bit about from the headlines. Vaccination is a cornerstone in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. The sentence like that, I guess, usually has to be put in there in order to be published. Anyway, however, the initial messenger RNA vaccine clinical trials excluded several vulnerable groups, including young children and lactating individuals. The US Food and Drug Administration deferred the decision to authorize COVID 19 mRNA vaccines for infants younger than 6 months until more data are available because of the potential priming of the children's immune responses that may alter their immunity. The CDC recommends offering the COVID 19 vaccines to breastfeeding individuals, although the possible passage of the vaccine mRNA in breast milk, resulting in the infant exposure at younger than 6 months, was not investigated. So, whether you agree with that or not, if it's based on no data, well, then it's important that it is investigated, right? Anyway, this study investigated whether the COVID 19 vaccine mRNA can be detected in the expressed breast milk of lactating individuals receiving the vaccination within 6 months after delivery. Results the vaccine mRNA appears in higher concentration. Oh, sorry. No, I should read it properly. Of the 11 lactating individuals enrolled, trace amounts of the, the vaccines were detected in 7 samples from 5 different participants at various times up to 45 hours post vaccination. So they did find stuff in breast milk. Even though in the very beginning it was assured that the when you get vaccinated, the vaccine stays in your arm locally and doesn't spread. So now, 1.5 years on from the start of vaccinations, now a study comes out showing that um, the vaccine shedding does appear in breast milk. 1.5 years on. Now, what I would like to do is, because this study is well published in alternative media, I haven't seen it in mainstream as far as I know, but I don't obviously look at mainstream that much anymore. Someone who's done a really good job in analyzing these kind of things is Igor Chudov. He's on Substack. That's a good platform for uncensored news. I'll put the link below as well. Igor Chudov is his name. He made people aware of a study in the very same journal, the JAMA, in 2021. That one is about the same subject, July 2021, evaluation of messenger RNA from COVID-19 vaccines in human milk. And I'll read the headlines as well from that one. Messenger RNA vaccines against COVID 19 were recently approved under an emergency use authorization. However, there is a paucity of data regarding vaccine safety in pregnant or lactating individuals who were excluded from phase 3 clinical trials. And many mothers have declined vaccination or decided to discontinue breastfeeding due to concern that maternal vaccination may alter human milk. The World Health Organization recommends that breastfeeding individuals be vaccinated and does not advise cessation of breastfeeding following vaccine administration. The Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine states that there is little plausible risk that vaccine nanoparticles of mRNA would enter breast tissue or be transferred to milk, which could theoretically result in priming of infant immune responses that could alter childhood immunity. However, there are no direct data. To address this knowledge gap, we analyzed milk samples to determine if vaccines related mRNA was detectable in human milk after vaccination. So they tested more or less the same thing about a year ago. Results analysis of 13 human milk samples collected 24 hours after vaccinations, um, including multiple time points from a single participant, revealed that none of the samples showed detectable levels of vaccine mRNA in any component of the milk. Hmm, interesting. So a year ago, nothing showed up in breast milk, and now, just recently, they did detect it in nearly half of the participants. That's a bit strange. So what this Igor Chudov does well is he analyzed the studies side by side. So if you look at them, and again published in the same journal, you can see a number of different things. In the recent study that shows the nanoparticles, it's 11 participants and 131 samples collected. The one that doesn't show anything, there's 13 samples collected. So that's in the current one, it's 10 times more, a factor 10 more samples that were tested. The recent study shows that the samples were frozen immediately, not some kept on ice and some frozen, and samples are taken 2 to 4 hours after vaccination and also days after vaccination. And in the study from a year ago, samples was taken until 24 hours after vaccination, except one participant. The recent study looked at four fractions: whole breast milk, fat cells, and extracellular vesicles. I think it's you pronounce it. And the older study didn't look at the latter. Um, so I don't know what you think of the study, but like comparing those studies, but like yeah, it looks like the recent one has done a better job. It's a way bigger sample, and they looked at many more things, and they seem to have treated the samples more consistently. And yeah, anyway, what else is apparent? The recent study, no scientists were sponsored by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation nor the CDC. And in the study from a year ago that showed no positive samples, two scientists were sponsored by the Bill and Melinda Gates organizations and foundation, and two were sponsored by the CDC Foundation. Draw your own conclusion, but I think if you want to support a conclusion, you can always find a scientific experiment to support your conclusion, because there's stuff like this around, both published and peer reviewed, I guess, in supposedly respectable journals, at least the most the one of the most famous ones, and you get different conclusions. But yeah, look at the differences. I mean, it's not hard to recognize this, and look at where it comes from. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Do they have a conflict of interest? Do they want vaccines? Decide for yourself. Decide for yourself. Anyway, um, if you want to believe that it's not in your breast milk, yeah, feel free to take the risk. When I'm seeing these kind of things, and I'll refer to the Thai study of published a couple of weeks ago. I made a cut the COVID crap video of that one as well. In that prospective study, 2% of the young boys that participated in the study showed biomarkers like heart, um, irregular heart patterns. Let's put it that way, in general terms. What do you think of that 2% risk? I mean, these boys all recovered. Whether or not they stayed on medicine or not, I'm not 100% sure, because sometimes they say recovered, but they're still on medicine. So is that properly recovered? Make up your own mind. Anyway, if I assume that's right, there's like if you get a vaccination in that age category, young boys, you expose them to a 2% risk of getting uh, some heart condition, at least initially. Is that worth the risk? Uh, like if you're vaccinated, does it increase? Is the benefit greater than that risk? You can argue that. I'm not going to advise you that. I'm not a doctor, but I'm not an idiot either. So if I have to judge that, I would say like I'm not sure what kind of risk we're talking about if there's repeat vaccinations. If the vaccination will be one-off and there's a 2% risk, um, it's a different story than if every how many months are we supposed to take a booster? Every depends on the jurisdiction, I guess, like probably 4 months or 6 months or something like that. Like so far, it's been pretty frequent. If you have to take one every couple of months and you have that 2% like maybe that 2% risk is maybe there's something in the aluminium. Maybe you have a particular adverse reaction to aluminium, the small aluminum particles that are in many vaccinations, and maybe that 2% is just that particular risk. And if you either you have that sensitivity or not, and then you have that 2% risk. And then if you have to take it again and you're not sensitive to those particles, then then there's no added risk. However, maybe um, uh, it's maybe that's not the mechanics, and you take a 2% risk every time you take a vaccination, and then you can consider like 98% chance that it's going to be okay. But if you take if it's going to be 98% okay every 4 months, then eventually it's going to be your turn to have an adverse reaction. So uh, um, that's at least more risky than the one of 98% chance that things go right. And then of course you have the potentially of a build up. Like if you have these spike proteins injected in your body and they stay in your body for a longer time, and then every 6 months you get a new boost and they add up, yeah, then that 98% risk, 98% safety goes down every time you get a new booster, and then yeah, eventually it's gonna hurt you as well. So I've not seen any studies that show these particular risk over different like that type perspective study. If that was done, if those boys or whatever age category or gender category was followed over different injections, then you can probably say more. But nothing so far. You have to make up your own mind. But yeah, it really depends on the recurrence of the risk. Anyway, um, good comparison by that Igor Chudov on Substack. Again, link is below. Do your own research, of course, and I'll see you next time.